like to call the meeting to order, please. I want to welcome everyone here tonight. We have a big crowd because we have a very special occasion coming up. I won't even spill the beans about what that is yet, but we have a very special guest of honor tonight. Tonight is Tuesday, December 11th. This is the school board meeting of Leon County Schools located at the Aquilina Howell building. We are here for our business meeting, and we want to, I was asked by Mr. Jones to say he would be here in just a few minutes. He's detained. And we are going to start with Ashley Campbell, our school board member, student school board member, and she's going to introduce our student guests.
Also joining us this evening is Chelsea Mathis, who is a 12th grader at Amos P. Godby High School. She's accompanied by her mom, Sandy Please, and her sister, Kelsey Mathis. She is involved in the Cougar Connection, Upwards Bound Math, Science with FAMU. She's also a member of the National Honor Society, Rho Kappa National Social Studies Society, and she's interested in working with children and becoming an elementary school teacher. So thank you, Chelsea, for joining us.
Could everyone please stand with me to say the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Also joining us for the thought of the day from Godby High School is 12th grader Braden Barfield. He's accompanied by Adele Burns, Kat Barfield, and Derek Barfield. He is the National Honor Society president, a member of the yearbook staff, and is interested in animals, friends, writing, and eating.
Hi. We must renew our commitment to instilling high moral character in our students, to teaching them to treat each other with kindness, to stand up for what is right, and to respect the diversity of backgrounds and experiences that strengthen our country. Eva Moskowitz, thank you.
Okay, we're going to move to item 201, changes and additions.
Madam Chair, the superintendent is recommending approval of changes and additions that need to be read into the record. Item 19.09, which is the Tallahassee Classical School contract, is being replaced documentation with finalized contract. And item 19.09, also still the classical school, updated the action requested to the superintendent recommends, following a public hearing, approval of the contract for the Tallahassee Classical School. And adding item 19.10, Violet Griffin and SG versus Leon County School Board. This agenda item has been moved to this meeting due to the settlement agreement stipulation that it be approved by the board before January 1 of 2019.
Do I hear a motion?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Bowen, seconded by Ms. Triplin. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved. Next, we come to our very special superintendent spotlight. So, superintendent, take it away.
So like Ms. Wood said, usually when the room is packed like this, one or two things have happened. One, I've made a lot of people really upset, protest, or we're celebrating a very special occasion, a special night. And it's sad that Board Member Jones couldn't be here because he was adamant right after he was sworn in. The first item he wanted to recognize was to recognize Ms. Maggie Lewis Butler and her years of service to this school system. So I would like to bring the Queen up to her throne. Now, this is not a roasting session, but it isn't a chance for us to come together as a community and to say thank you. 30 years a classroom teacher. You know, she used to tell her stories about being a science teacher for years at Bellevue, always driven by data and numbers and held people accountable and responsible, especially the superintendent, whether it was me or, I don't know how many superintendents come and go? 4, right. But she was the rock on this dais for decades, for over 2 decades, for 22 years. And it's been an honor and a pleasure to serve with you, Ms. Lewis Butler, and I'm not going to speak for the ladies behind me. They can speak for themselves. But as a product of our public schools and having given my career like yours to our school system, It's just an honor. And so many, and this is a tribute to you. We all have our blue on, your favorite color.
Yes.
Just as a way to say thank you. We also have a plaque, as you can see, to Miss Maggie Lewis Butler, recognizing her 20 years of dedicated service to and professionalism to the students of the Leon County Schools in the Leon County school system. So we have this for you. And then we're going to start off with a dozen yellow roses that match your beautiful blue dress. And I'm going to set these roses over here on the side.
Nice. Thank you.
But again, Miss Lewis Butler, it's been an honor to serve with you and just beyond words. And you touched thousands and thousands of young lives. And to watch you out here, the many years I've watched you on TV, watching you in the audience, you were always the stable, didn't get overly emotional one way or another, just the calming force of the school board for so many years. So thank you and God bless you. And this.
Thank you, Superintendent. And now members of the board are going to get a moment to say something, so I'll start. These are from my dear friend, Maggie Lewis Butler.
Thank you.
Maggie. And I just want to tell you all, as Superintendent said, what a rock you have been on this board. When I was a high school principal, she was elected in 1996, and one of the first things she did was she came out to the school. And those of you in the audience who are involved in schools know that Maggie loved to be in the school. She loved kids as a science teacher and then as a board member, and you could always count on her. No matter what school, she was there. She would cross town. It didn't matter if it was north, south, east, or west. She knew, like we all know, that all the children are all of our children, and we don't make decisions based on our district. We make decisions based on what's good for the entire district. And Miss Lewis Butler always reminded us of that. And she stuck up for her area, believe me. But she also always knew that we are for all the children. And I just want to thank you so much for your many years of service, Maggie. Thank you. Next, we're going to have our school board attorney, Opal Butler, say something. But I didn't say that right. Opal McKinney Williams. I know an Opal Butler.
Maggie adopted her.
You done kicked Alan to the curb.
I just want to say thank you so much. I have had the pleasure of sitting on this dais for the last year and a half, 2 years, but prior to that, I sat in the audience as working under Jeff. And for over a decade, I got to watch you from back there. I watched your grace. I watched as Board Member Wood talked about and the superintendent talked about, your commitment to the entire district, all of the students in our district. I've always appreciated whenever I've had to call you to talk about an issue. You were very concerned about whatever the issue was, but like Ms. Wood said, you never got overly emotional. You wanted to understand the facts behind it. You wanted to understand the issue. And you always, I think, gave a very well-rounded and reasonable mindset. You brought a well-rounded and reasonable mindset to any issue that we were dealing with. So I just want to thank you for all that you have done for this district, for what you did for me, the model that you exhibited for me. And I wish you very well in your future endeavors. You're welcome.
Next, Ms. Rasmussen.
Well, I won't take too long because it would appear that we have a room full of people who are waiting to say nice things to you, but I didn't want to let this time pass without at least mentioning a couple things, and the rest we'll have a private conversation about, not on television. It has been one of the greatest privileges of my life to get to work with this woman for the past decade. And I just want to thank you for your mentorship and your friendship.
Okay.
I got really, I'll just tell you this one story. I got very, very ill, very unexpectedly a few years ago. And you know how sometimes in your church people do like a sign-up list to bring food and stuff when people are sick? Well, Maggie took the whole month by herself. And I said, Maggie, I can't eat all this food this fast. and just an example of her heart and her love for people. And you know, even when she broke her own foot and had surgery, I think she's only been late to one school board meeting once ever, which I don't think any of the rest of us can claim that. maybe the new ones. And you know, one of my first earliest board member meetings, I remember she listed activities happening at every single one of her schools. And I thought, oh gosh, am I supposed to do that too? So she set the bar way up here. And I won't belabor the point because I know many of you have many other things to say. And we're going to have lots more conversations, my sweet, dear, wonderful friend. But thank you for everything you've done for the students and this community and for me.
Thank you.
Ms. Striplin?
I've probably known Miss Lewis Butler, who I like to call Miss Maggie, and it is a sign of love and respect. That a very endearing term for me. Probably the shortest amount of time. I joined the board 4 years ago, and have a great deal of respect for Miss Maggie and what she has meant to this community. But I don't think I realized it. I learned more about her on the campaign trail this last time. I heard her talk about the schools that she had been to through the years, the schools that she was involved with, the changes that she had seen, the changes that she helped instigate, the improvement, the lives that she touched, the children, the grandchildren, the parents, the grandparents. I mean, it went on and on and on. And I learned more about her during this last year, I think, than the years we spent together on the board. But never without a smile on her face, always happy to see you, no matter what was going on. And feisty. I'll never forget, I made her mad once when I first got here. And she looked over at me and said, "I'm not finished." And I was like, "Cora, you remember that?"
Yes.
She put me in my place really quick, and let me tell you, I needed it. So I appreciate her for that. But I miss her up there, sitting beside me. And you are something special to Leon County Schools.
Thank you. Ms. Campbell?
These are for you, Miss Lewis Butler. Although I probably haven't known you as long as everyone else, I just want to say in this short time that I have known you, it's been such a joy listening to all of your colleagues talking about your work and your passion, and I think it's safe to say that on behalf of all the students that you've worked for so long, that you really truly have made a difference in so many children's lives, and you really are very passionate about what you do, and I think that goes to say that you've made an impact on so many children. So thank you so much for your work and dedication to us, the students of Leon County. We really appreciate you for all of that.
Thank you. And last but certainly not least, Ms. Bowen.
Thank you. You know what time it is. I need the podium. The sage on the stage at this point would be myself. That was you before. Maggie Burt Lewis Butler. I want to add my voice to the chorus of my colleagues who have expressed wonderful things about you, and they all were true. Team Leon tonight is wearing varying shades of blue in honor of your beloved sorority, and I dare not wear both colors because out of respect, I know. We know what time it is, you know what I'm saying? And so I know that I've known you longer than any of my colleagues on the board. As a matter of fact, you and I met when we were students at FAMU in 1964. I thought I'd get a wow from that. I lived in 301 Cropper Hall, and you lived directly across the hall from me. Oh, you and your roommate Jeannie were the biology majors. I'm a sociology, psychology major, and I really didn't care anything about the birds and the bees and the plants and phylum and stems. So you all tutored me and got me a very weak C so that I could graduate from our alma mater. And for that, Maggie, I thank you. The world would have it as it turns on its axis that we graduated and went our separate ways and had our families, and I eventually came back to Tallahassee and was elected to the board in 1998. And from 1998 until June of this year, 2018, I can do this. We served together on the board. We have seen many changes. We have overcome many challenges. Maggie, I admire your stamina, tenacity, compassion, and your downright hard work. You have displayed the kind of advocacy for all of our children on the South Side. It would do well for many of us to emulate what it is you have shown us through your years of service. We often say to each other, girl, we make it look easy when we're up there in front of the TV cameras. Our hair, we're coiffed, we've got our makeup on, and we're smiling. They just really don't know what is going on until and behind those scenes. But we recognize that. Your honesty, Maggie, and your integrity are to be admired. Your desire to help everybody is part of your core values. Often when we go off to meetings and we'd be trying to get to some places or around the community, you would stop and talk to everybody. It got on my last nerve. But you were my little buddy, and I stood there with you until you finished, and I said, can we go now? When we travel off to the Florida School Boards Association conferences, I was the driver for Miss Maggie. It was her understanding that she had to bring the snacks, and if she didn't have bananas and apples and cherries and oranges, she couldn't ride. So she always had our picnic lunch. I want you to know, Maggie, that you and I have learned, and it is becoming increasingly clear to us that school grades are dictated in large part by the economical, social, and political factors, and not by the individual school board members elected from the district. I want you to know we know that, because we've worked that out. Your work speaks for itself. I hope that you know that as we offer these words of congratulation to you, how very proud we are to have served with you. I want you to know, Maggie, that I hope that you will find in all that has been said about you tonight that we really love you. And I hope that what we say is additional confirmation of a job well done. We respect you. We love you. We want to walk in your shoes of caring for everybody. That's hard to come by. That is just who you are. That little smile, that is so beguiling can be so misleading because you've got the tenaciousness of a bulldog, the stamina of anybody else, and I mean that with love. I admire you so much. And so the outstanding service that you've given to this entire community really should be emulated. And so I hope that you will live long, do well, enjoy life. I am proud to have served with you. And so from Joy to Maggie, trust in the Lord with all thine heart and lean not unto their own understanding. Be at peace, do well, have fun. Take me to lunch. I love you, girl.
We all gather down. Stay down there, Miss Bowen. We're going to have a picture.
I'm positive. So before we hear from our honored guests, there are several people that signed up in the audience to speak. I mean, you have a granddaughter that's here. Is it? Where's grandbaby? Come on up, sweetie, and let me find a. Would you like to say a few words to your grandmama? Come on, step up here. What's your name?
Whitney.
Whitney. What a pretty outfit you have on. What grade are you in?
Third.
Third grade? Where do you go to school?
Greater Atlanta Christian School.
All right. So what do you want to tell your grandmother?
Good evening. My name is Whitney Addison Marie Pittman. I'm 8 years old and the youngest granddaughter of my Nana, Mrs. Maggie Lewis Butler. On behalf of all the grandchildren and great-grandchildren of my Nana, we want to congratulate you on 22 years as a Leon County School Board member. May your unwavering dedication to education and community service be an inspiration to all of us. We are so proud of you and your accomplishment. We love you, Nana.
I don't know how you follow that, but I believe her daughter, Miss Godson.
Good.
Oh no, she spoke on your behalf. Oh, your niece. Oh, okay.
She wants to speak.
Miss Lewis, yes, yes. So it says granddaughter. Now we have the daughter. I don't know how you're gonna follow the granddaughter.
Ma'am, we're going to need Mike to speak in the mic. Sorry. My name is Rashay Gatson, and I'm here with my husband, Ransom. And we're representing the siblings and our family. So, Mother, we love you, we adore you, and we respect you. Mostly, we're so proud of you for being a visionary, a leader, and for being a role model to our family and to others. For 52 years, you focused on providing excellent education for all students in Leon County community, and we heard that from everyone, all students. 30 years as a science teacher and 22 years as Leon County School Board member. We're so honored to have you as our mother, our Nana, and our role model. And yes, you did all of this while making sure that you prioritize your commitment to your family, your faith, your friends, and other causes that were near and dear to you. And believe me, there are many, many causes. I cannot keep up with my mother.
We know.
You're a beacon of light, and you led tirelessly by example. As stated in Matthew 25:21, well done, good and faithful servant. You've been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Sheryl Sandberg, who's the CEO at Facebook. She said leadership is about making others better as a result of your presence and making sure that impact lasts in your absence. Your impact and your legacy in this community will continue and will last. Congratulations, and may God continue to shower you with blessings in your retirement. Best wishes on your future endeavors, and may God grant you your heart's desire and fulfill all of your plans. We love you.
Thank you for sharing your mother with all of us. Now we have several members of the community that'd like to speak. I see Miss Annie Harris is here from the John G. Riley House. I think she'd like to say a few words.
I wanted to be here just as a friend because Maggie also taught my daughter. And I couldn't go home if I didn't do this. She's dedicated. She has taught science to many students in this district, and she's just dedicated to giving service back to organizations and church and you name it. I don't know where you get all that stamina, but it's a good thing. The Riley Museum, she serves on the board. She's never late, and if she is, she's going to let you know why. And that is the kind of, I think, when I hear that granddaughter, let me tell you something, she's a hard thing to follow. Because at third grade, this is to be admired. Right. And I know that if I told my daughter, Eunice Heath Harris, I was not going to be here, it would be trouble in the house. She talks about one teacher from her school. And out of all of the 12 years, it's Maggie Lewis Butler. And I understand she calls you periodically, but I want to know, I'm just proud of you. Call you friend, call you co-worker, and dedicated to not only the Riley House, but many organizations. Take a little time for yourself and your family, enjoy it, and I look forward to just giving you a big hug right now. So just thank you so much.
Next, we have Miss good friend of mine, Miss Cheryl Collier Brown, would like to say a few words, and as Miss Collier Brown comes up, I just want to echo what Miss Harris said. I go to a lot of events. Just about every event I'm attending, Miss Lewis Butler's attending. No matter what part of town, she is there like a rock. She's not, you can take politician, if she's not a politician, she gives from the heart and has for so many years. So absolutely. There you go.
Thank you. Good evening. Well, when I arrived for another task, and Dr. Gale asked me would I speak or would I like to speak. So I said, well, we'll see. So then she came and said, oh, you speaking. Okay, so here I am. But I remember when I first laid eyes on Miss Lewis. She was my 7th grade teacher, science teacher at Griffin Middle School, and I was just in awe of her. I went home and I told my mom, I said, Mama, my teacher, the prettiest woman I ever seen in my life. And of course, my mom conveyed that sentiment to you when we met. And I was sitting in the audience just thinking about, from that day, you have been a constant in my life. From 7th grade to I graduated from high school, college, and all of my achievements that I accomplished being employed with Leon County Schools. You've been there when I retired, when I turned 50, even there when I lost my mom. And I just want to let you know how much I appreciate you and I love you.
Miss Vera Gibbs.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm speaking on behalf of our sorority, the Brilliant Beta Delta Sigma chapter. Will all of our sorors, will you please join me at this time? Soror Maggie, we want to say to you that we are so proud of you for your dedicated service that you have given to Leon County Schools for your 22 years of service. We are so proud of you, and it is an honor for us to be here with you to celebrate for what you have done. And just know that we love you, and just keep on keeping on. And you know, your sisters, we're here for you, and we're just so proud, you know, of what you have achieved. And just know Beta Delta Sigma chapter, I mean, we are just so elated, you know, for all your accomplishments, everything that you have done for all of the students, and even our chapter. We are so proud of you. And now we have a corsage that we want to present to you, as well as a card.
She can take real money now. Maggie, you can take real money now. Real money. You don't have to stop at no $50.
That was good.
And take me to lunch. You're arrested. She does. Right. She looks really good. That was a nice showing.
That's really cool. So next we have, on behalf of Florida A&M President Robinson, Miss Carmen Cummings Martin.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I am Carmen Cummings, a proud alumna of Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University. To the Leon County School Board, Chair, board members, superintendent, to our wonderful staff, faculty who may be in the audience tonight, administrators, clergy, retirees, rattlers who are also here, as there are many of them. And of course, to our lovely honoree, to her devoted husband, to her children, and her most beautiful and adorable granddaughter who spoke so eloquently. There are also some city leaders in the house tonight, and I tip my hat to you as well. I'm the Senior Executive Director of University Engagement at FAMU, and I am delighted to be here tonight on behalf of the 12th President of Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University, Dr. Larry Robinson, the President of the FAMU National Alumni Association, Colonel Gregory Clark. And we want to salute you for being a dedicated alumna in our community. The FAMU Office of Alumni Affairs and Florida A&M University's Alumni Association truly are so proud of you, the radiant, the honorable Miss Maggie Lewis Butler, for your outstanding commitment and service to Leon County. And whereas Maggie Lewis Butler is a trailblazer, among her accomplishments, a seat you earned on the Leon County School Board, becoming the first African-American female school board chair, which is worthy of applause. And whereas the Honorable Miss Maggie Lewis Butler is a die-hard rattler, you earned your bachelor's degree, as we heard, from your dorm mate from FAMU. And whereas you are truly involved in your community and active, as we heard earlier, with the Riley House Museum and the NAACP, the Swanee River Area Council of the Boy Scouts of America, the Tallahassee League of Women Voters, and you've also served with valiant distinction on the Democratic Women's Club Board. Whereas Miss Maggie Lewis Butler is admired for her impressive career as a dedicated classroom educator, a school board member, a community leader, and a political leader who has made substantial contributions to public education in Leon County. And you are so admired for your unwavering commitment to our students, constituents, and your community. Therefore, be it resolved, the FAMU National Alumni Association and the FAMU Office of Alumni Affairs and University Engagement wholeheartedly congratulate you for a job well done. Dr. Larry Robinson had hoped to be here tonight, but he was going across the finish line in our SACS review in New Orleans tonight, and I'm pleased to report that we had a banner day on behalf of Florida A&M University. And so he knew that I was coming here tonight, and so he crafted this message right before he boarded the plane. Please let her know how much we appreciate her, and especially her service to the Leon County community. Her work on the school board has contributed to one of the best school systems in the state of Florida. She can lay claim to creating a zootopia of scholars that are now gators, wildcats, eagles, bulls, osprey, and of course, rattlers. She can also take credit for creating some Seminoles and Knights as well. So in the words of the Rattler Nation, and on behalf of Dr. Robinson, he says, we thank you for your dedication to the well-being of all students of Leon County. God bless you. Keep striking, strike, and strike again.
Thank you so much, and tell President Robinson thank you on our behalf. And now I'd like to bring up our City Commissioner, Mr. Curtis Richardson, who'd like to say a few words to Ms. Lewis Butler, and then we'll let Ms. Lewis Butler speak.
Madam Board Chair, Mr. Superintendent, members of the board, our esteemed attorney, and to each of you, it is an absolute honor to be here to speak on behalf of a young woman who is, and I call her young, who has been a role model and inspiration to me in my public service here in Leon County over almost the last 20 years now. I have a very special relationship with Maggie and her family. Her son-in-law, Ransom, was my college roommate for a semester. And so he, of course, married Rashay, and our relationship has lasted over all of these years. We would travel back and forth to Jacksonville. He's from Jacksonville. I'm from Green Cove Springs, and we would travel back and forth on holidays and breaks from school and establish that relationship over the years. But also, Maggie and I have been residents of the south side of Tallahassee. South side pride, y'all. And as you all know, I had the opportunity to serve for 6 years on the Leon County School Board, and resigned to run unsuccessfully for the county commission. But I remember distinctly Maggie and I talking about her desire to succeed me on the school board, and I knew that she had retired from the school system, and having had the relationship with her family and knowing Maggie the way I did, I knew she would be the perfect person to succeed me on the school board, and that she certainly has been. Like I said, Maggie has been my role model. She's been my inspiration. I can't tell you, people ask me all the time, Cheryl Collier Brown, Curtis, when do you sleep? I tell you, I could say the same thing about Maggie, because Maggie gives so much to this community in so many ways.
Absolutely.
I can't imagine the thousands of lives that she has touched and made those lives better simply because of her giving and what she has contributed to this community. Maggie, I am so proud of everything that you have accomplished. And Mr. Superintendent, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that Maggie is the longest serving Leon County School Board member at 22 years. I think Emily Millett may have come close at 16, but I believe Maggie is the longest serving, and so that means a whole lot to this community as well. And then finally, when I told my daughter, Maggie, my daughter served as the student school board member last school term, and when I told her that I was coming here tonight, she said, Daddy, make sure you tell Miss Lewis Butler how much it meant to me to have served with her on the Leon County School Board and what a role model she was for me and the impact that she has had on my life. Cool. So Maggie, thank you so much for everything that you've done, and on behalf of the Richardson family, my wife Nina, and our youngest daughter Aida, we thank you for all that you've done and look forward to, because I know you're going to still be active and involved, but continuing to work with you to make Tallahassee and Leon County and our school district be the best that it can be. Thank you so much, and God bless.
Excuse me, Superintendent.
Yes, sir.
Before you bring up forward, may I say something?
Say whatever. Yeah, you want to get a mic too? You can. You all right?
I'll do it right here. I like to use this as a thought. In the eyes of a husband of a school board member. Politician. When I first met Meg, I met at a church I pastored in Mariana. After we got married, I realized the position she had put me in by being a husband of a school board member. First started when I married her. Everybody called me Reverend Lewis. I mean, Bible said when you're married, wife take on your name. That was the first part. Then I ended up working at Bellevue, her school she taught at for 70 years. After I came in from working under Rudy Gibbons in Truancy. Then after that, that's when it all started. I began to look at her as she was your all school board member. I sit there looking at TV, she'd be on the telephone. Eat dinner, back on the phone. Get ready to go to bed at night to go to work the next day, she's still on the telephone. I realized that was just her. Concerned, 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. I wake up, she's still up for, and I would never bother till I get out the phone and come to bed. Even sometimes in the bed, I had to slow that down though. Then when we traveled on vacation, and we got to, I let her talk till we got to the hotel. You know, you on vacation now, Maggie. They'll be there when you get back to Tallahassee. That's all she eats, she breathes, she loves you all and everybody's children. Didn't matter who you were or what you were. And I learned something from that. She had a great compassion for her job. I didn't try to stop her no way at all. Whatever I could do to help her. And I learned the best way to do that was to leave her alone and let her do Maggie. She did it too. But she did it well.
She's getting out of. I see. You can see now. If you add the roses up, I believe there's 22 roses, one for each year, Dr. Gale, for each service. Yeah.
Thank you, Superintendent. God is good. Superintendent Hannah, Chair Woods, Vice Chair Rasmussen, board members Bowen, Triplin,
Attorney McKinney Williams, Dr. Gill, and staff. Thank you for this celebration and acknowledgement of my commitment and dedication to educational excellence for students in District 3 and Leon County School District. First, I would like to thank God, my husband, Reverend Robert Butler Jr., my daughter, son-in-law, granddaughter Whitney Pittman, family, friends, Bethel Missionary Baptist Church members, will you stand? My church family. Reverend Holmes is absent. Simon Gamma Sorority Inc., will you please stand again? Thank you, Soraz. Do we have National Hookup of Black Women, Inc.? Thank you. My manager, Chauncey Haynes, you stand. We have the lead campaign group, Connie Jenkins, Cassandra Jenkins. Are they here? They left, okay. Nikki Taylor, stand. And all other campaign supporters and constituents, past and present, would you stand? That's good. My past and present school board colleagues, if you're here, the Leon County students, families, school support staff, community, thank you for your love and support throughout this 22 years of journey. Thank you. My most notable accomplishment include ensuring all students had access to resources, technology, to receive a quality education in a safe environment, leading to the effort to build a new Bond Elementary School, promoting collaboration between board colleagues, along with parents, teachers, support staff, the community, and business partners to achieve common goals, instrumental in securing approval for funding to upgrade Rickers High School to a state-of-the-art school, and lobbying for policies, programs to increase the graduation rate. As you know, Leon County school system is in the top 10 school district in the state based on the graduation rate. The students of Leon County are leaders today and tomorrow, and I know together we will continue to do what is best for our students and our community because of the school board and the superintendent leadership. I'm looking forward to my next exciting journey and adventure for my life, which will include more time with loved ones and continued engagement and service at organizations focused on education and community service in Leon County School District. My passion for education was inherited from my mother dear. I inherited my dad's work ethics, his entrepreneurship skills, and his strong emphasis on education. Finally, I owe my strength and faith to my rock, my grandmother, Maggie Dubose. When she would say, when the world give you lemons, make lemonade.
Lemonade, that's right.
And always put God first. Once again, thank you for the opportunity to lead and serve. I know that Leon County School District is in good hands. Best wishes to all of you on your future endeavors. May God grant you your heart desire and fulfill all your plans. Psalm 20:4. Thank you to Dr. Gale for making very sure that this take place. Happy holidays to all of you during this season. And please spend time with your family and loved ones. God bless you. Thank you.
Well, Miss Maggie, you get to go now and not have to do this business meeting if you like.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
But we want to thank all of you for coming tonight. I know every one of you could have gotten up and given a speech, but thank you for being here. And you don't have to stay for the business meeting, really. But
Madam Chair, I want to say one thing.
Go ahead.
Streaming is going on in Atlanta of this meeting.
Yes.
And I want to say hi to my baby daughter, Amy Pittman.
That's wonderful.
Hey, Amy. Hey, Amy. We miss you, Amy.
And Miss Lewis Butler, I forgot to say that Mayor Daley called right before the meeting. He is sick tonight, and he is so sorry he can't be here, but he sends you his congratulations and love.
Thank you.
Maybe. Give him just a second. Give him just a second.
Is that Reverend Strivens? I think it is. Do we need to do a short recess?
It is.
Oh, that's Reverend.
Yeah.
How's your last year? I am ready.
Hey, Reverend, how you doing? I didn't see you. It's good to see you. You're retired too, huh?
Have we talked about that? I don't know if I didn't realize he was with me. We took an English class together last year, and then. How you doing? With your handsome skin. How much of school board members are you at
Oh yeah, I was. In fact, well, it was funny because we were back, cars in the week, except we saw Ashton, and I was walking out, and I got swept up in this crowd, and they kind of ducked into a row, and that was it. We were separated. I was like, I was texting George. I was like, "Are you?"
Chris, you gonna sit in your chair?
He's like, "I see him."
That's the Petley chair. It looked bigger in the magazine. Mini chairs. Got a clear room.
One of the girls were like, no, not me. Were you in the singing thing? Singers and Melody or Sid Red Dress? I'm an old friend. I mean, I have no procedure. Oh my gosh, I was just every percent.
Okay, we're going to get started with the business part of our meeting.
We have a recognition.
And we have a recognition. Before we do that, another recognition. So I'd like to call on Susan Baldino to come up. Yeah. Hold on.
Yeah, hold on. Miss Baldino, hold on 1 second. Let's see if we can get those doors shut. I'd also like to call, if it's okay, Madam Chair, Principal of Leon High School, Billy Epteen, if you would also come to the podium. He'll bring her up.
Good, because I have to speak.
Well, that's quite a hard act to follow, but we're happy to have you here, Susan. And
Yes.
we want to honor someone else. So Go
yes,
for it.
it is a hard act to follow, but I think you'll see that this act is pretty darn good. It thrills me. This is a statewide award, and it thrills me when I can come to Leon County and give one of these awards. I'm Susan Baldino. Thank you very much for welcoming me to the agenda tonight. Regional Program Coordinator for Arts for All Florida, the state organization on arts and disability. The Arts for All Student of the Month program recognizes extraordinary talent and the impact that art makes on students with disabilities throughout the state. Marshall Fisher was an extraordinary child who grew to be an even more extraordinary young man. He was an artist whose imagination and creativity boosted him in the good times and sustained him through tragedy. Marshall entered the foster care system at 18 months, and by the time he was 11 years old, he was placed 13 times in shelter homes, foster homes, and group homes. He also attended 12 different schools during those early years. When he approached the idea of adoption, his counselor remarked, "I wasn't sure he would be able to trust, to open his heart, to fill the void." Then he found Betsy. Betsy was Betsy Fisher, a longtime history teacher at Leon High School, who 10 years earlier realized she wanted to be a mother. She prayed for the right match, for a son that would fill the emptiness in her heart. Meanwhile, Marshall was attending Pace Secondary School and Leon High School, and his favorite classes were his art classes. Sarah Rollerson taught drawing and painting. Emily Strickland, and both of them are here this evening, guided Marshall as he learned to sculpt. Kathleen Carter, an Arts for All teaching artist, was his private art instructor and mentor. Betsy met Marshall, and the two developed an everlasting bond, first through a mentoring relationship, then through fostering, and finally adoption. Betsy promised Marshall that she would always be there for him. Less than a year after Betsy adopted Marshall, he was diagnosed with cancer, a threatening bone cancer called osteosarcoma. Marshall spent hours, days, and weeks at doctors' offices and hospitals. He underwent surgeries, an amputation of his leg, chemotherapy, and radiation. He struggled with a wheelchair and prosthetics. Through it all, Marshall produced amazing art. He continued art classes and art therapy. His art was all of who he was, said Betsy. He drew with uncanny talent. He sculpted characters, animals, insects, and monsters. He decorated spoons, straws, walls, and even made a decorative birdhouse out of one of his prosthetic legs. He used hospital syringes to squirt paint on his canvases. He built fantastic Lego creatures. He made countless puppets out of brown bags and socks. Art was comfort. Art was a vehicle for emotion and a way to connect with a world that was fading from his view. Always giving back, Marshall and Betsy became an ambassador family for Children's Miracle Network. Here's Marshall with the Children's Miracle Network flyer or poster. And he created an artful Christmas card design. It's a reindeer for Children's Miracle Network. He became a miracle kid for the FSU Dance Marathon to raise funds. Last year, Marshall's energy dwindled. He was dying. He and Betsy talked about life and death. When he couldn't sleep, she would ask him if he'd like her to read to him. As only an artist could, he replied, "No, Mom." Instead of reading, "Would you draw with me?" At the end, when they spoke of his funeral, Betsy asked Marshall about his vision, and once again, he confirmed the importance of art in his life. "I just wanted people to be creative, Mom," he said. Marshall Fisher died on May 14th, 2018, after a 4-year battle with cancer. He was 17. Although he is here in spirit, Arts for All Florida is honored to present the Student of the Month Award to Marshall's mom, Betsy Fisher. a picture with you? No. She'll. Sharon, can you take a picture?
I've known Betsy most of my career, and I remember having discussions with Betsy at Leon when she was making this decision about adoption or not adoption, and had no idea who the child was, and we had long conversations about it, and she said, it just feels like it's the right thing to do. I think that God is telling me this is, for some reason, I am supposed to be in Marshall's life. And I had never even had met Marshall. And I remember after I left Leon in the summer of 2012, one of the schools that I oversaw was Pace Secondary. And that was my first encounter with Marshall. And she was right. God put Betsy in Marshall's life for a reason. And you are a saint. You truly are, and I'm proud to call you my friend, Betsy. God bless you. I know there's some other. I see Stacy Fabrica and some other Leon people, some of her Leon family, and folks with the Hang Tough Foundation are here. I don't know if y'all are here for Betsy or not, but will y'all stand up, please?
Great.
Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for being who you are. And I look out in the audience and see tears streaming down about most of the audience face, including the superintendent. We all know that this was a very special person. And thank you all so much for giving him what you gave him. I know he's here with us tonight. So thank you, and thank you for that award, Susan. That was lovely. Appreciate it.
You want a picture? Yeah. And then y'all need to leave. Come on up and we'll take a picture. Billy, if you want to bring the Leon folks up. And the Hang Tough Foundation, I see they're here, and I need to brag about them. So on Saturday at Roberts Elementary School, they brought Santa Claus.
Everybody who's here for this, please come on up and be in the picture.
To Roberts for special needs kids that could visit with Santa in a much less chaotic environment than the Governor Square Mall. So thank you for that effort. You want to come out there with them?
Go ahead. Just go ahead. Thank you. I know our business meetings don't look like most other government organizations, and that's because we're in the kid business and we're in the people business. And so I hope our audience won't think we're not taking care of business, because this is our business. And thank you all for being here. We are going to now move to our reports to be heard, and we're going to start with the District Advisory Council. And I believe Cheryl Collier-Brown is going to, no, I'm wrong. Joanna Miller is here. Thank you. More. Sorry, Joanna.
That's okay.
We actually changed it on my computer, and you can.
I understand. I'm trying to get myself together after the last presentation and the presentation before, so I really got the hard job to stand up this evening. But good evening to everyone. I've cleaned my glasses about 20 times already, so I'm going to put them on and try. To Mr. Superintendent and school board members, I have two reports tonight because the District Advisory Council has not reported from the November meeting, and we had a December meeting as well. So I'm going to start with the December meeting, and then I'll move into, with the November meeting, and then move into the December meeting. So on November 8th, our meeting opened with a welcome from our superintendent, and he shared his experience. He was volunteering with Gretchen Everhart, and he shared his experiences out there at Gretchen. And he also wanted to thank all of the District Advisory Council members. He wanted to give special recognition to the principals whose schools were used as shelters during Hurricane Michael. Our best practice on November 8th came from none other than James S. Rickards High School. Dr. Joe Williams, the IB coordinator, gave a brief overview of the International Baccalaureate program. We heard from Mr. Bill Nimmons and Kathleen Malloy on texting and social media. The presentation gave an update of information on the use of these activities for the county, students, and parents. Kelly Walker from the Volunteers, Partners, and Mentors Office gave a brief overview of the volunteer office programs. Christy Strickland from the Junior Achievement Big Bend Volunteer Office gave us a presentation on volunteer opportunities. Mr. Nick Maddox, the Executive Director from the Leon County Foundation, gave us a presentation, and we thank the foundation. Ashley Scott gave us an update on the Title I budget, and Dr. Gale gave us an update for the November meeting about advanced ed, the Leon County School vision, mission, and belief statement. We left the November 8th meeting with homework to go back to our school advisory councils and talk about the start date and tossing those ideas around about the start date, school start time. So on to our December 6th meeting. We had greetings from our newest school board member, Mr. Darrell Jones. We talked with Title II. Mr. Shane Seifert came and gave us a Title II update. We had a very special presentation from Ms. Mary Kate Thomas with Save First. Their tax services are free. We talked with Dr. Gale about our advanced ed update, and they will be in the district on February 3rd through the 6th. We had a discussion, very brief discussion, on school start times. Everyone came back with their homework, some emails, but some others made reports from their school advisory councils. One of the most important things that we did at this meeting was pass the policy package 5611, and we passed the policy package 1430. Our best practice for that evening came from Dr. Arnisa Shelton Martin and the Leon County Virtual School. We learned a lot of information from all of our best practices. It's turning out to be one of the highlights of our District Advisory Council meeting. Our next District Advisory Council meeting is January 10th, 2019. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. That is our report.
Thank you so much, Joanna.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And next, we have our Student District Advisory Council, Abigail Hanson, Chair, proud student of Sale High School, just might mentor.
Good evening. So firstly, I would like to address the fact that all of our student representatives brought back data that they had gathered from their respective student bodies regarding school start times, as Dwana discussed also. And we did come to the conclusion that the opinions of the general high school population was consistent with that of the committee, in that we would not particularly recommend adopting this sort of change due to a conglomeration of various factors, including concerns for having enough time for after-school activities, including jobs and extracurriculars, concerns regarding little siblings and the changes impacting their start times, and also the fact that despite perhaps getting a little extra sleep in the morning, there were concerns that we would be staying up later to complete our other various tasks, resulting in no enhanced sleep and therefore no improvement in our performance. Beyond that, we did continue by reviewing the information representatives also gathered on connotations surrounding different schools and how we stereotype those who attend them, which is our focus for the year. We brainstormed various events or activities that might eliminate some of these, which we found to be hyper-prevalent. And Leon had previously raised the idea of a student government Olympics for late January, early February, which we found interesting, but playing off of that, we thought prior to that event, forging interschool connections in advance could be very advantageous. And therefore, we developed the idea of what we're calling School Swap Day, which would entail representatives from schools paired based upon those with the most extreme divisions or differences shadowing one another. For example, students from Godby shadowing Leon representatives for a day and then being shadowed the following day. We suggested the dates being the 22nd and 23rd tentatively, and stated our priority as being interacting with others on campus and then taking our experiences back to our home school and having to gain a better understanding and ability to bring into question fellow students' assumptions. We have all reached out to our principals regarding this potential event and have gained every principal's support. So our follow-up meeting, which in fact is actually tomorrow, we will be addressing the actual implementation of this event that we have gained the support of all principals for, which I am immensely pleased by. So that was the entirety of last month's meeting, and I thank you all very much.
Abigail, thank you so much. That was a great report. And a worthy adventure. So we're excited to hear your report back after you visit all the schools. We really want to know about that. And next is our Title I Advisory Council, Marie-Claire Lehman.
Hi. Hello. I also have 2 reports for you because I didn't manage to come in November to report. And I first wanted to welcome Mr. Jones to the school board, and we're very happy to have you, and we were very pleased to have you at the Title I Advisory Council meeting yesterday. But first, a couple of notes about our November meeting, which was at Griffin. We had a presentation by Principal O'Boehner, but we also included a presentation by Principal Robinson from Sable Palm because due to Hurricane Michael, we had to cancel the Title I Advisory Council meeting in October, but we didn't want to miss out on an update on the process that they're undergoing there, establishing the Community Partnership School. And so she was very generous with her time and came to our November Title I Advisory Council meeting instead. We also had a really interesting discussion around the possible effects on Leon County schools, specifically Hartsfield, Fairview, and Rickards, of the Southside Revitalization Project. And because we were encouraging TAC members to be later on in November at the town hall meeting at Hartsfield, so that sprung up a conversation about that. And it also included a conversation about the resegregation of our schools, which we continued to talk about at last night's meeting. And I think you all have been sort of bathing in that topic. I know Ms. Bowen was a presenter at the League of Women Voters event in October, and I'm glad that it's on everybody's radar and in everybody's plans to work on it. So last night at Oak Ridge, we had, our meeting was at Oak Ridge last night. That's what I meant to say. And so we heard from the principal there, Dr. Smith, and we also heard a presentation from Ms. Scott, the Title I director, on the Title I grant components and the application process and what Leon County Schools' priorities for that grant application were, what the priorities were in this past year. We wanted to work on reiterating highlighting some of the recommendations that we made to you last March, so that we don't go a whole year without revisiting them, and especially so that when we do meet in March or April, whenever we set that meeting, so that we can maybe enter into more of a dialogue where the school board and the district can bring back some of the initiatives that have been implemented based on those recommendations from last year before hearing new recommendations from the Title I Advisory Council. So in order to do that, we thought that this mid-year meeting report today would be a good time to just reiterate some of those and support some of your already ongoing initiatives. We always welcome initiatives by all of you, but especially Ms. Bowen's initiative of setting up a committee that would really look at the patterns of resegregation that are happening in our schools, but also in our district as a whole. We don't think that we're doing this simply to meet and talk about a problem that we already all acknowledge, but really to accurately identify causes in order to address those specific causes of this pattern of resegregation, and especially in the effect of disparity that it causes between our schools. So it's not just a question of diversifying our schools, it's not just a question of rebalancing our demographics, but it's a question of striving to achieve equity and eliminating disparity in those resources. And the school board can't do that alone. The school district can't do that alone. We have to do it with the city and with the county, and we completely recognize that, but we need to align our initiatives, align our priorities between those various agencies in order to make forward progress. And where we think the school can do a lot is in much more specific, obviously related to the school ways. And one of those recommendations last March was key ways to provide equitable access to early childhood education. And so many of you are focused on this right now. We want to know, how can our schools expand pre-K programs so that all the students arrive in kindergarten having had high quality early childhood education. We think this will better serve and strengthen our communities as a whole. We think that the kids that will be in our pre-K programs will be able to continue on in our schools and be good learners in our schools. This goes along also with the recommendation of intervening early and having more resources in the early years in order to really bridge that gap that is happening between grade levels. I'm almost done, I promise. The other things that we recommended last March were around best practices. And we want to reiterate the need to recruit and retain teachers of experience, teachers who understand the commitment that they're making when they come to Title I schools. How can we incentivize that? And we had a very interesting discussion about this last night. Mr. Jones was present for it. And we want to see how other schools, other school districts are doing the same thing beyond what already is happening in Leon County schools, which is not enough. And one of the nice things that Dr. Smith mentioned yesterday is the importance of joining a school with the desire to learn the school's language. So she was explaining that when you become a teacher at Kate Sullivan, you learn crocodile. And when you become a student at Oak Ridge Elementary, you learn to speak Eagle. And you commit to that culture, and you're there to stay. And you might be a first-year teacher, but we're going to give you the resources to make it in that much more challenging environment of a Title I school. And we are going to attract and retain experienced teachers because we need a very sound mix in our schools. I want to give you an anecdote, which perhaps is ill-placed, but my fourth grader at Hartsfield has only one teacher still at Hartsfield that she's had. Only one of her previous teachers is still at Hartsfield. That is a high turnover rate. And she notices because she's very aware of such things. And I'm not necessarily saying that that's important to all kids, but it happens to be important to her. And I think that it's not the case in all of our school. It's probably not the case in the schools that you went to school at when you were a child. We know that you recognize the particular challenges of teaching at a Title I schools and the higher needs of the students and the less access they have to resources, but we have to keep it at the forefront of our mind because this is part and parcel what resegregates our schools economically and racially, because we just have a concentration of poverty, a concentration of high needs students, and that ends up driving away families that want to provide a richer environment. And I don't mean just monetarily. And so it's a very difficult task or difficult problem. It's a stubborn problem, as someone said yesterday at our meeting. And we want you to focus on recruiting and retaining teachers, but not at the expense of what we're already doing with Title I funds, because what we are doing right now is excellent. We have 77% of our Title I budget directed towards personnel, towards tutoring, towards paras, towards resource teachers, towards coaches. You've done that. It's excellent. All the principals are talking about the importance of investing in the teachers and in the adults that are in the rooms with those kids, whether it's teachers or paras or tutors after school. So we don't want to bring that down in order to put the money towards retaining and recruiting. We want other money. And we want to look at that creatively. We also want to refocus our energies as a district, not putting this on the backs of principals, but as a district to strengthen the feeder patterns that we have in between our schools, to share best practices, because we don't have to just look at A schools or Title I A schools in either county, although that would be useful information as well, and we're working on that. But there are great things happening in our schools right now, and the principals need ways to better share those initiatives, but also to lock arms and make sure that what they're doing doesn't create, so that what they're doing is shared throughout the schools, so that when children, because about 30% of our children in Title I schools move from school to school within the same school year, we need to lock arms and eliminate those gaps between the schools, make sure that we're working together for those families so that they're not falling in those gaps when life forces them to change schools. We're all serving this one community. Thank you very much for your patience in listening to this refresher on some of the recommendations that we had brought to your attention and that we continue to work on developing in the Title I Advisory Council meetings. We know that it's a long, slow, and difficult road towards equity. Some of us are a little less patient than others, and we want to continue to really be always keeping that as our goal. And I want to say, maybe this is more of a personal view, but we really appreciate the positive campaign that you are working on at various levels to highlight all of the good that that's happening in our schools. You're doing it at the district level. Each individual school is doing a great job doing it. Yesterday, Principal Dr. Smith, her presentation about Oak Ridge, she highlighted the students. They were there to speak on behalf of their own school. And all of that is excellent. It's positive social media. And you know that I'm going to say, but I don't want us to feel trapped as public school agents in only having to focus on the positive in order to survive as a species. We still have to attend to the needs, and we still have to call out the inadequacies of the budgets that are handed down to us, and that does prevent us from doing all of the good work that we need to be doing. So we have to balance that with the positive campaign, because not everything is okay. So I know that's a difficult task, and I'm not saying that the positive campaign doesn't have its place. I think it's extremely well received, and it's energizing. And we also have to find a place to discuss the more difficult issues. Thank you very much for your attention tonight. Sorry that we went way over time.
No, you're fine. We always look forward to hearing from you, Marie Claire. And a request I have is that you would just send us your report.
Sure.
So that we could have it to refer to.
Sure, that's a good idea. I also forgot to explain the chair. We co-chair, Miss Edwards and I. She wanted to be here tonight, but we decided to divide and conquer. Both our sons were performing in the Fairview Band concert, and so she went to that, and I came here. She'll tell me all about it, and I'm going to get to tell her all about this. So, and he was happy that I wasn't there, so don't worry.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I have a question.
Yes.
Mr. Superintendent, what is the nature by which we engage with these three committees in terms of responding to whatever recommendations and reports that they provide us? How does that manage such that the commentary, is this information archived where we can get it? There's no written attachment found here in the agenda item. Is there some way that we then revisit this information after it's shared with us? How do each one of these presentations inform our work?
Good question.
So the District Advisory Council has minutes in each of those records. They're reported on, but they're captured as are, and what Ms. Wood requested from the Title I Advisory Council and the Student Advisory Council, so we can always go back and refer to some of their recommendations from those different groups, and we do listen. That's why we formed the Title I Advisory Council, because we wanted a group of community people that were deeply invested in those schools to give us feedback and offer advice and some of their thoughts, just like we do with the District Advisory Council and with the kids. And not that we're going to always agree on the end result or changes of policy, but they certainly help us direct and guide our future behaviors and when it comes to policy decisions and other things that we do in support of Title I schools and our students and our district as a whole.
And that measure, that method by which we capture it, is the onus is on school board members who will have heard the report to then refer back to the writing to subsequently inform any decisions we make beyond the time of their presentation.
Yes. I mean, I don't know.
Well, I'm just saying, if they, for example, the recommendations that she's just reminded us of from last March, what's the method by which we as a school board and the superintendent respond to those recommendations, whereby they in some way responded to either in our decisions? Do their recommendations have fiscal impact? Are they informed as a part of our strategic plan? That's what I'm saying. I mean, because certainly there's a great deal of intellectual capital found in all three councils, certainly. So I'm just asking, how do we digest that to subsequently be impactful? That's all.
I'd like to make a comment on that. I think we're thinking the same way about this issue. And I'm hopeful that when we review our strategic plan, and I think we decided in February to have a workshop, maybe an all-day workshop, that we can really start having very specific goals, objectives, and that we have a way to come back and measure where we got after we've made these. Because I feel that maybe we've been remiss in this. We have a nice strategic plan, but I don't think we have a very clear process right now of coming back and checking which of the strategies did we implement and which ones we didn't. And also, did we meet our goal? So I really feel like we need to revive the whole process to look at it as a more strategic plan that we use as our basis for, as a board and as a school district. So I really look forward to working on that together with everyone.
And I appreciate your indulgence. I'm, as you can imagine, am unaware, but I am also aware, having been a person who served on these types of advisory boards, where that impact of citizen input or constituent group input subsequently informs you. And I just want to know, what's the method by which it informs what we do as a school board.
Mr. Rasmussen.
And I would add to that, that I hope that this strategic planning process will be not simply a dust off of the last strategic plan, which was created under the prior superintendent and under at least 2 different board members. That this is the opportunity for all of us to come together to help inform the direction that this board wants to go. And so I hope that that process will be created accordingly. Several of us at the Florida School Boards Association saw a presentation from the Osceola County School District where the board members really took their strategic plan and made it come to life, even through social media, and each board member had a different pillar, and they really were promoting it in the community, and it was a pretty striking distinction between that kind of an approach and what we have, and I hope that we can visit that.
Great, I'm looking forward to that.
And we certainly will. I mean, that strategic plan is a living document, and it's going to morph and change over time as superintendents come and go, as board members come and go. But we also had lots of other stakeholders that weighed in on that, on that plan and in that process. But I agree. I think it's in February. It gives us a chance to really dive deeper into it and make adjustments, and as we see fit.
Okay, thank you. Next, we are going to go to the items of consent.
No,
I'm sorry, I'm totally wrong. Persons to be heard.
And there are no speakers.
There are no speakers?
Okay.
Okay, so then now we'll go to persons to be heard. Now we'll go to items of consent.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I move the items of consent.
Second.
They've been moved by Ms. Bowen, seconded by Ms. Rasmussen. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the items of consent have been adopted, and so that moves us way down the agenda to 19, where we take our items for consideration.
Somebody's driving this thing. There we go.
You can drive it. Okay, so the first one is approval to advertise amendment to policy 4600, classification specifications, and I see we have our Director of Personnel with us, so go ahead, Mary.
Good evening, Madam Chair and Superintendent Hannah and board members. With this item, the superintendent recommends approval to advertise an amendment to policy 4600, classification specifications. It would include a new classification called school safety monitor. And we also further request that you allow us to set a public hearing for January 22nd of 19.
Move approval.
Second.
I hear a move for approval by Madam Striplin and second by Ms. Bowen.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
It passes. 1902 is a public hearing. Superintendent recommends following a public hearing, adoption of proposed policy leaves of absence effective December 12th, 2018. Superintendent.
Madam Chair, first let me go back to the prior item, the school safety monitors. We added to our list of staffing provided to our schools. We hired 50 security monitors. We just didn't have a job description for them, so we're coming up with a formal job description to shore those positions up. 1902, as we discussed at our last meeting, is now going before a public hearing and adoption to remove language that was added to policy 1430 in December 12 and return it to its original form as recommended by Neola.
I move acceptance.
Do I have to ask for public comment?
Yes, we need to open a public hearing.
1 second. I would like to open a public hearing on this. Are there any speakers? Hearing none, I'm going to close the public hearing and now accept a motion. Mr. Jones?
I move for acceptance.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Jones, seconded by Ms. Bowen. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It passes. Now we have 1903, hearing adoption. The superintendent recommends following a public hearing, adoption of proposed policy package 5611. Superintendent?
Madam Chair, as discussed yesterday extensively at our agenda review with Dr. Rogers, this is a consolidation of all of our discipline policies and just basically cleaned up the entire package and that is being brought before you in regards to student suspensions and expulsions and juvenile justice programs.
It's now time for a public hearing. Do we have any speakers? Hearing none, we will move on to motion.
I move for acceptance.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Jones, seconded by Ms. Striplin. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Sorry.
Okay. It passes unanimously. Now we're on 1904. The superintendent recommends approval of the Allstate construction, and I'll let Mr. Albritton take over from there.
Good evening, Chair, Board, Superintendent. Item 1904 is the superintendent's recommendation for Allstate construction. Phase 3 is construction manager at Rickards High School for the new construction site improvements, site utilities, and retaining wall. Their guaranteed maximum price on this phase is $2,472,250. And I will remind you again, this is a phased project as funds come available with a construction budget estimated at $35 million.
I move the superintendent's recommendation.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Ms. Bowen, seconded by Ms. Striplin. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously.
Item 1905 is superintendent's recommendation for a contract with Phoenix Energy Corporation for the purchase and installation and commissioning of a CNG compressor system. The price is $763,806.
Move approval.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Striplin, seconded by Ms. Bowen. All in favor?
Aye.
It passes. We also just want to say we had an extensive discussion about this at our board workshop yesterday, and it was very informative. And we know that we have cleaner energy powering our buses, so that's a good thing.
Yes. Item 1906 is also the Phoenix Energy contract. This was originally this was the bid. It was under a consent item number 8, bids and quotings, got moved to consideration. It is asking the board to approve bid number 5553-219, installation and commissioning the compressor for Phoenix Energy Corporation.
Move approval. Second.
Moved by Ms. Rasmussen, seconded by Ms. Striplin. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously.
1907 is the No Petro lease agreement memorandum. This is a first amendment to it. This is where the changes that we discussed yesterday. This is the superintendent's recommendation that you approve the lease agreement. It allows us to use both sites now. We were limited to what we could use, the Connor Boulevard site.
I understand that's going to save a lot of time and money, so
A lot of time,
thank you for making that
a lot of wear and
happen.
tear.
Move approval.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Rasmussen, seconded by Ms. Bowen. All in favor?
Aye.
Passes. 1908 is disposal of surplus property, which we also discussed yesterday.
Okay. Superintendent speaking, I think.
Yes, Madam Chair. This was discussed yesterday by Dr. Moore and Haley Dwyer about the process we go to dispose of surplus property.
Move the superintendent's recommendation.
Second.
It's moved by Ms. Bowen, seconded by Ms. Striplin. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It passes. And next, we have the Tallahassee Classical School. But first, I need to say that the school will have a public hearing before you entertain a motion.
Yes. So Justin's going to give his, we'll open it just like you did.
Okay. Good evening, Madam Chair. So 1909 is for the approval of the contract for Tallahassee Classical School. This is the contract that follows the approval of the application, which you did back on October 23rd.
I'm now opening this for a public hearing. Would anyone like to speak? Hearing.
Anyone here from class?
We do have people here from the classical school, but they're choosing not to speak, so welcome to the meeting. I'm going to close the public hearing and see if there's a motion.
There is, Madam Chair. Move the recommendation.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Did you want to have discussion, Ms. Striplin? Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. Madam Chair, I had a question on the designation of the facilities and location. In the statute, it states, and we had some discussion about this yesterday a little bit, that it states that in the contract it needs to provide the facilities to be used and their location. And it appears that the designation, the parcel ID, is a vacant land. So I'm concerned if we're looking at, we're looking at August 2019 opening, right? Yes. So I'm very concerned that there's no facility there. Is that a work in progress? Is that to be a facility before August? I think we're talking about hundreds of students, and we want to see you guys succeed. And so to have a facility there to be prepared for that school to start, I'm just concerned there doesn't seem to be any forward motion there. So could they answer that?
So it is my understanding that the facility, the parcel ID number that they have provided will be their permanent location. They are in the process of contract negotiations for a temporary facility. They have not provided that at this time as they fear that it will interfere with their contract negotiations. So we do anticipate that we will bring an amendment back to the board with their temporary facility for year one.
Could you guys tell us, maybe make us feel better that there is a facility out there for the students? Could you share that with us?
Yes, we are hoping to announce before the end of the year.
Does she have to identify herself?
Would you mind coming and identify yourself and just answer the question, please?
I'm Adrienne Campbell, co-founder of Tallahassee Classical School. Yes, we are currently working on our temporary facility. We are in contract and lease negotiations right now. We anticipate having those secured before the end of the year, which is why we would have an amendment in January.
Okay. So is there any reason why you wouldn't put that location in the contract to just go ahead and be very clear about?
Because we haven't signed a lease, and until we have a lease signed, we want to make sure that we do indeed have that permanent facility secured before we make that announcement public, to make sure that we're very consistent in our messaging and where we're going to be located.
I have a question also.
Is there?
Go ahead.
Is there? So, but you do have a contract in place on the parcel that's in the documentation.
The permanent location.
Yes, there is a contract on that one. So
Mhm.
there's a document. There's a either a lease or a purchase.
Yes.
Could you provide that for us?
Yes, we can provide that.
Okay, great. I'd like that to be attached. That should be attached to the contract, since that's currently the place that you're naming as your permanent location. So we need to have some documentation of that.
Sure.
Okay? Right.
Thank you.
Given that will be provided, are there any other questions?
This will be my first time voting on a charter school.
Okay.
And I just want to say to the persons here, one of the things that is of great concern to me as we talk about the issue of the resegregation of schools, and I understand through the instruction that I have received from our capable and competent staff and from our legal counsel about the nature by which we negotiate, I am concerned where there is no requirement for plans for a diversified enrollment when we make a public investment of taxpayer dollars. And I don't know what the plan is for this current project, but that'll be my question every time any charter school will come before the board, as long as I'm sitting here, because I'm concerned that the opportunities for whatever innovation that they would hope to provide this community in this context would be open, and that children from all over across the expanse and breadth of our community will be provided opportunity to share in this tax-paid experience. And so I don't know if they want to answer that question now, if there's a plan to recruit to provide diversity, a diversified classroom setting, and provide diversity in their faculty hirings, but that will be my constant question relative to charter schools. Co-founder.
My name is Jana Saylor, and I'm on the board of Tallahassee Classical and a co-founder of the school. According to statute, a charter school is open to any and all students in the appropriate grade levels. We do plan to market to students all across the community, and we sincerely hope and will seek to have a diverse student body at Tallahassee Classical School. The enrollment is open to all students, and if there are more students that apply than there are seats at the school, then we will hold a random lottery. We cannot filter out students. We must be open to any and all students that apply. So there isn't a way to set aside seats for a certain demographic.
I did not say a set aside. The word I used was recruit.
And we are planning to recruit students from all across the community. Absolutely, sir.
Okay. Because is transportation provided by your school?
Under the statute, we are allowed to do a variety. Charter schools have flexibility with regards to transportation. We are unable at this time to provide for busing, but we plan to help parents coordinate carpooling, and we plan to have a 8 a.m. start time with drop-off available earlier in the morning, so that parents who have students in multiple grades are able to drop off all of the children in their family at one time and one location so that it's easier for them to get to work on time.
And faculty?
We also plan to recruit a diverse faculty.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I think those concerns are shared by the entire board, so really appreciate your comments on that and look forward to a successful opening for you. At this time, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
I have,
Nay.
I didn't, so we have
The nays on the end.
it's a 3-2 decision by the board. Okay. Next, we have 19.10, Violet Griffin, and Student Government versus Leon County School Board.
Madam Chair, if I may, this item was added late. We just finished negotiations. It was a civil case that was settled through mediation, and it's been the recommendation of our third-party administrator that we settle this suit. And there's an item summary that kind of talks a little bit about it. As an aside, I met recently with our local property and casualty provider, PRIA or Brown & Brown, to do a complete review of our current practice when it comes to liability insurance, to make sure that we are instituting practices that give our school system the most protection, while also looking at premiums and deductibles and things of that nature. And this was, unfortunately, an incident where we had a school bus that was involved in an accident, and there were 2 people that were injured. And given the climate and the time of where we are in 2018, several lawsuits appeared as a result of that accident, and this was the recommendation of our insurance provider and carrier to settle this suit as opposed to going to trial.
Thank you. Do we have a motion? Do we have a motion?
Move the superintendent's recommendation.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Yes, Ms. Rasmussen.
To your point about meeting with our insurance providers and moving forward, I'm wondering if it's my understanding that in the past we've had contracts with our insurance carriers that gave us a role in selecting the attorneys and gave us some sort of discretion, or at least the ability to influence whether we choose to settle or go to trial. And it's my understanding further that that is not a part of the current contract, but I hope that we can revisit that moving forward to make sure. And case in point, just as an anecdote, I'll tell you that I'm familiar with a situation where a driver was in, a little fender bender. The insurance company tries to settle. The lawyers for the plaintiff want to go after the deeper pocket of the other insurance company. They hire an attorney out of St. Petersburg to represent somebody up here. And the family has no role in whether they choose to settle or not. Well, if you go to trial and there's a jury verdict, then that driver is responsible for whatever the gap is between the insurance coverage and whatever the jury verdict is. And I know we obviously have sovereign immunity. I know there are claims bills processes in the legislature, but even up to our caps, I think that we ought to have some sort of discretion in choosing whether we go to trial or don't. And I think that's a process that needs to be approved by the board and not by staff.
Well, so we have different lines of coverage. In this case, we have a very high deductible, $500,000 in general liability, where I would agree with you, because that would exceed the sovereign immunity that we would ultimately have more skin in the game than an insurance carrier or provider. In other instances, the professional practices, as with several other cases, our deductible is $25,000. So at the end of the day, the insurance carrier, AIG, has a lot more skin in the game in making those recommendations. And we can certainly invoke the right and go against the advice of our carrier. But if we do that, there's evidently something called a hammer clause, where if we go against their advice and we're not successful, that we pay everything, that the whole bill is on us. And it's a matter of weighing things. We had a case recently that they were asking, I think, for $750,000, and they weren't coming off that number, and we ended up going to trial, and we won, but our legal fees were $125,000. And we'll never probably recoup that. So it's a balance, and they do loss run reports as to like this $70,000 here. Are you better off? Leon County Schools, I wanted them to do a report for us that looks at insuring all of our. I see Mr. Joannis back here. Insuring all of our buses at $800 a pop, and to reduce the deductible to $25,000. Are we better off doing that? Or, given the conditions, what does this number look like? Yeah, this 70 plus another 30 plus another 50. What does that add up per year? As opposed to what does the premium cost for a policy that would drive the deductible down? So we're doing some research now with Merrill and with Kim Banks, our new CFO, to examine that, because more and more often we're seeing ourselves in court and in civil suits. Then I don't see in the next.
Not going away.
No, it's not. That trend is only going to get worse. It's not going to get better. So, are we doing the best we can to protect ourselves while also doing the math of balancing between premiums and deductibles, and unfortunately from time to time having to make settlements?
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
And you're voting no, Mr. Susan?
No, I said aye. No.
Aye, okay. That's a unanimous decision.
Painfully.
Painfully.
I know, I get it. Yeah, nothing bothers me. Yes, this upsets me too, I promise you. Anyway, I don't know what else to say.
Okay. Now we have information items. Anything about upcoming meetings? Okay. Reports from board liaisons. Just for the public's information, every year, and actually twice a year, but always in November, the Florida School Boards Association has an annual conference, and it's like going to school board school. So everyone has to have refreshment and knowledge, and that's what we do as a board every year as part of the Florida School Boards Association. It's quite a good conference. It's in Tampa, and all of us attended. And so I have asked the members just to give a quick report on something that they learned or they were interested in, and whoever would like to go first, I'll take it from you.
I'll go.
Go ahead. Go.
And I apologize, I didn't bring my briefing notes because it would have been a binder about this thick. But one just quick thing, which I've already actually submitted an email to staff and to the superintendent about. I attended a session regarding Title IX, but then there was an article in the paper recently about reporting all the way from bullying to violence to felonies. And I'm just concerned about whether we're coordinating that effort. I know that, and I want to hasten to say, and I said this in the email to staff, that I know that they are all very busy attending to their primary responsibilities, and that adding the burden of having to add a report is a burden. But nonetheless, if that's the law, that's the law. So this particular session I attended was with an attorney with regard to Title IX. And what basically bottom line is, what they were saying is that the colleges and universities have been at the forefront of these, back to trial attorneys, colleges and universities have been at the forefront, but the new frontier is K-12, and that lawsuits are coming. And these are the things that we can do to try to protect ourselves to the best of our ability. And there was an entire PowerPoint, which I'll be happy to forward and share with the superintendent and staff, but it was very interesting. But I think it's a broader question about, and I think the attorney provided a checklist. If you look at Title IX and all the other reporting responsibilities, all the way from DCF to FDLE to the Department of Education to the federal government. And when it comes to the federal government, there is no sovereign immunity. Those fines and those kinds of attorney's fees can be pretty steep. So, and the other thing I had asked, again, a couple of times over not recently, but over 10 years, several times I've asked about the appropriateness and the cost effectiveness of us obtaining public records insurance. That's another recommendation that has come out of FSBA every year that I've been there. So I just want to make sure we're thinking through that. Thank you.
And I can add about the public records request insurance. That was one of the topics and one of the discussions with our provider, with Brandon Priya, to come back with a proposal that includes that.
Thank you.
Great. Madam Chair?
Yes.
I had on my list the bullying session as well and the public records request, but as a past president of the Florida School Boards Association, it really is always a good opportunity for us to not only be re-informed and re-educated, but to network and have varying speakers come in to update us on the cutting edge information, legislative, and that kind of thing. I do want to share, however, that I serve as the alternate for us, our board, as the legislative liaison. And so I attended our session, and the 2019 legislative platform, I believe I may have brought copies for each of you, but the basic topics were keeping students safe, enhancing mental health services, investing in students and schools, providing students with high quality teachers. They gave us talking points. I will make sure to get you copies of that. Required effort, dealing with enhancing the mental health services. And it was just a very wonderful conference where Frank Brogan came in as one of the keynote speakers. And it was a very interesting session. Questions were very telling. We also talked about funding, or one of the platform items related to funding, and again required local effort, and the increase in student-based allocation by a minimum of 3% over the prior year. So there were many good thoughts that came out of it. I served as a facilitator for one of the sessions. I was also elected to serve on the nominating board for the new officers for next year. So the work goes on. Accountability and accessibility, the added provisions, the required or revised provisions. Again, funding, more funding, or will there ever be any more funding? School choice options were, of course, very important. The legislative committee also deleted some provisions. Some were outdated and some were duplicative. So we had a very lively discussion. And I will say that this committee is made up of representatives from the 62 counties. 62 counties? 67. I'm a little chocolate. But anyway, the 67 counties. So it was a very lively and spirited discussion. Outside of that, there is a federal platform that comes out of FSBA, and members of the Florida School Board's delegation will be traveling to Washington in January to talk at that level about education, preparations programs, Title II, many other interesting things that we are going to be faced with when it comes down to governance. So the advocacy activities calendar, I will get you a copy of that as well. I picked up copies for us. What happened?
Thank you, Ms. Bowen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Jones, would you like to add something?
Well, as you can imagine, I attended the new board member academy. It was time well spent. I learned a great deal. It gave me great perspective in terms of my relationship, particularly the relationship that exists between an elected superintendent compared to an appointed superintendent, and the nature of our relationship as colleagues, and for a board that is a 5-member board compared to a 7-member board. But most importantly, it gave me great insight into the great opportunity that lies ahead for us as a collective, and affecting the lives of our community, affecting our community for a generation. The only thing that I would say that I was disappointed about was that with all of that intellectual capital found in that room with school board members and superintendents from across the entire length and breadth of the state of Florida, all 67 counties, we did not have any discussion or any presentation on the status, future, or remedies for Title I schools. And I thought that conversation that conversation was conspicuous in its absence. But I am delighted about the curriculum that lies ahead in the weeks and months to come, and I hope to gain my certification as a certified school board member, such that I can be better equipped to serve our community. But it was a fantastic time. I'm grateful that I went, and I was grateful for the opportunity to share with my colleagues in a setting outside of this dais.
Thank you. Ms. Triplin?
Thank you, Madam Chair. If with your allowance, would like to report that as the County Commission liaison. I got caught at my other job and was not there for as much of the conference, although I did my ethics training, so I'm good there for a whole nother year. I'm ethical. But I am currently the County Commission liaison for the school board, and went to their annual retreat this week and texted Roseanne immediately and said, you have to watch this replay, because it was so wonderful and efficient and productive, and they must have said the word school 100 times. And so it really reiterates that important relationship between our city commission, our county commission, and our school board. And something I had spoken to John Daly about, I think a year ago, about, hey, and Nick Maddox as well, why don't the heads of the organizations meet on a regular basis and communicate more about what we're doing and our strategic plan? How are we aligned? And so I'm glad to see that is coming to fruition. John had even said, well, hopefully I'll be in a different role in a year, and I will make that happen, and he is, and I think it's on the calendar. So I think that is an idea. I think maybe it was done a long time ago, and then it dropped off. But as our community grows and changes, and there's so much emphasis placed on keeping the talent here from FAMU and from FSU. We don't want them to leave. We want them to stay here and become members of our community. And the first thing they ask is, when people move to Tallahassee, is, what's the school system like? And then we are such an important part of that picture, and so I'm glad that we're gonna see that be a more visible piece in that trio in the year to come. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, well, I'll add my 2 cents here. I also enjoyed the conference. I always learn a lot. I noticed that a topic that I'm very interested in and talked a lot about was marketing. It was 2 sessions out of the 9 sessions on Wednesday, and so I chaired one of them and I went to the other. So I guess what I want to say is, in the increasing era of charter schools and vouchers and the legislative mandates that have been put before us, much as they were tonight, in having a contract that had very little flexibility, frankly, because statutorily we are basically told what's in the contract and what can and cannot be negotiated, and what must and must not be approved if the contract is met. So I think that reflects the vote from the dais tonight from some of us. Having said that, it's a competitive world, and I think we need to embrace competition, and we need to really show off what we have to offer, because we have some fine programs in Leon County schools. And I think sometimes people are fooled by school grades, which I do not think reflect at all what's going on in the schools. As Ms. Lehman referred to tonight, it often reflects the socioeconomic status of the students who go there. However, we have a lot to share, and it's up to us to make sure the community knows that. And so they talked about their efforts, and I went to 2 sessions, one Osceola County and one Orange County. And they have embraced this fully, and I was really pleased to see what they're doing in their marketing, in their messaging, in their ability to get the word out about what's unique and different in the different schools. And so I'm really hoping that we are going to embrace this storytelling, because we have a good story to tell in Leon County Schools. And of course, we're always in need of innovation and new ideas, and we can incorporate what the community wants. So we make sure that we're offering what the community does want in their public schools. But we have a lot to be proud of, and we have a lot to brag about. One thing that was interesting to me is in their career technical education department in Orange County, that's where they fund a lot of their marketing, because they have a marketing budget, and they also can share some of that with the rest of the school system, which they do in Orange County. And so it was a great option, I thought, to look at some revenue streams to start our marketing in a more forceful manner for Leon County Schools. So I hope that we will follow up that, and it will certainly be on the top of my list in our strategic plan workings. The other thing I found interesting, and I know very little about it, so I went to the risk management workshop, and I came back with a package full of questions we're supposed to be asking our risk manager. And so I will forward this to our folks, and we need to start asking some of these questions. Ms. Rasmussen referenced one of them about just different places we're liable, and how our risk management program should operate, and questions we need to ask. So look forward to that conversation as well.
Can I add to that one thing?
Yes.
I think for me, the key is, when we talk about risk management, it isn't just how we protect ourselves from litigation, but the proactive ways in which a true risk management department would look through those lenses at the way we operate in every aspect of the district across the county, whether it's transportation or food service or Title IX. And so I think that a more robust approach might be cost effective in saving us a lot of heartache and funding down the road. So just hopefully when I mean, I don't know that it's obvious to everybody that managing risk is the same as being proactive in preventing it. So just that.
Right, and they were really talking about the risk manager needs to be at the table every time you buy a fleet of buses, every time you make a decision, because you need to have it well researched so that you're guarding against risk. So that was interesting to me. And of course, as I said, the really marketing of our schools. I'm really pleased at some of the forward movements the superintendent and his staff have made on that, and I look forward to continuing that. Okay. Superintendent, did you want to?
So let me just, I'd like to say, so I just finished my my second year. Rome was not built overnight. I wholeheartedly agree with you. There are many departments that we still need to dive much deeper into, along with our strategic plan. And I think that it will happen over time. This is, as you all know, a very large organization with a lot of moving pieces and parts, and things don't stop just for us. There's going to be 12 or 13,000 kids getting on school buses tomorrow morning, and school's going to be running, and so it's having the opportunity and the time to do the deep dive and do these evaluations while also still running this organization. But I couldn't agree with you more on the marketing end, on the risk management piece. There are opportunities for us to do better, and I can assure. Yeah, and there will be, but that's our job. That's what we're tasked with. And as you bring forward recommendations, and other groups, Title I brings forward recommendations, District Advisory Councils. We will, not that we're always going to agree. Sometimes we might have to agree to disagree on certain things, but it won't be, because we're trying to move the needle and make our school system even better than it already is. And I can assure you, your comments are not falling on deaf ears.
Well, may I also offer, these last 2 years, I think, have been extremely exciting as a person who has sat on the sidelines and read the innovation that has occurred in this school district. I was impressed with this school district's response following the Marjory Stoneman Douglas Act. I was impressed when this school district decided to make an investment in gifted education. I was impressed when this superintendent made an investment to increase the amount of arts programs found in our schools. And so part of what impressed me also inspired me to run, that I might win and sit at this dais with you, Mr. Superintendent. So no, certainly Rome is not built in 2 years or a day. It will be over a great career, I think, that will be impactful, and I'm delighted to be a part of it. So although I may appear critical, I am impressed and inspired by your leadership and the opportunity for us to work together as colleagues.
Thank you.
Very nice. Thank you. So we had those reports. Superintendent, did you have any other comments you wanted to make?
Very briefly, I have to do this, but I promise it'll be brief. I had a superintendent's work day I told you about and went out and see Ashley White is here. We went to visit. I was a community liaison, better known as a truant officer, that went out and kind of looked for some of our kids that had not been coming to school or had been absent for a significant number of days. And unfortunately, a lot of these students are attending our Title I schools in some of these impoverished areas, and some of the living conditions, and it just it broke my heart to see what some of these kids are up against. And I think Ashley got a firsthand look at that as we continue to examine kids at these schools and why they're not coming to school, and those that are, why a number of them may be acting out as a means to try to draw attention to their plight in life. So it continued with my superintendent work days, and certainly an eye-opening experience for me, and not necessarily in a good way. But nonetheless, I'd like to wish all of our employees and students and Leon County Schools family happy holidays, and I'm just going to go ahead and say it, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. But I would be remiss, and I know we've recognized a bunch of folks, but I see Rick Williams sitting here tonight, as he has for so many board meetings, and this will be his last official school board meeting as a...
Stand up and take a bow, Rick. Come on, stand up.
Rick, stand up real quick. How many years with Leon County Schools? 45. So I don't have 45 roses, but I do have 4 chocolates to represent, each one to represent a decade. But I mean this. You have been a wonderful source of strength and role model for students and adults that have worked in our school system for well over 4 decades. And I'm just so appreciative in all that you've given and all that your service. All right.
Are there continuing concerns from board members?
Continuing concerns. Yes, I think so. Well, yes, Madam Chair.
Okay, Ms. Bowen.
I'd just like to thank, under continuing concerns, the superintendent staff for assisting in our hosting the Trailblazing Forum held down the Thorpe Street corridor on December 4th. It was outstanding. We had more community members there than the superintendent staff. The parents were there. The questions were wonderful. We talked about issues that dealt with suspensions, expulsions. We did health. We did safety. We did many other issues. And we're going to be holding the next forum sometimes in March. We are going to engage in workshops with the community because we want them to put their energies where their mouths are when they talk about how they support the children in the schools in Leon County. So this is going to be an opportunity for them, the constituents and mamas and daddies, to come out and share with us about what they'd like to see their community schools become. This was not a session where folk came and beat each other up, but it was one I thought that was very positively handled, and I'm just pleased we had at least 50 individuals there, and that was a success. So I'm thankful. Could not have done it without the superintendent's staff. The superintendent was there and was one of the panel members. We are also going to bring students out maybe in March and see what's on their minds. So these are our schools, these are our children, this is our community, and we want to continue to be transparent as we talk about how we are going to increase and enhance the state of education along the Thorpe Street corridor for all of our students. Okay?
Yes.
Thank you. New issues? Well, actually,
I want to see if there are any more continuing concerns from anybody, and then we'll go to new issues. Okay, let's go to new issues.
And actually, this might have been a continuing issue, but you may recall at the last school board meeting, I mentioned slightly something about age, and that went over very well. My phone was just blowing up. I discovered that people do watch the school board meetings.
Besides Rocky's mother?
Besides Rocky's mother.
After 2 hours?
But just let me tell you, they said, I really think you need to speak a little bit more about what you meant. And what I meant was, just because the government has said that at a certain age you are supposed to retire, you really don't have to go home and wither on the vine. You really don't have to go home and be depressed and get all grouchy and mean and think that there's nothing you can do. I say to you, those skills and abilities that you had and you used in your other job, continue to use them. Those things will keep you young and vibrant. And in case you can't think of anything to do after you clean your house for the second time, and you have done all of your grocery shopping and you've gone to the libraries, come to a Leon County school. Come to our office. Get yourself through the process. A little Joy Bowen or a little Rocky, and I can use you, can I, Rocky? Will need you to just be a mentor, a friend. So don't feel that there's nothing you can do. I am discovering that there is some vibrancy still left after that government age of you're supposed to retire. So I invite you to come and be with us. It'll make you feel better. And you know how it makes you feel when there's somebody who touches you on your shoulder? Little kids need that. Little kids need to think, oh, you look so cute today. Come on out and help us. Come to a Leon County school and volunteer. And that is not a paid commercial. That is just something that I think could keep us all healthy as we grow into the seasoned years of our life.
So well said, as always, Miss Bowen. I had another issue. I don't know if it's an announcement or what, but yesterday I went to over to Lively to listen to a beautiful collaboration that we have going between Danfoss Turbocore and Lively with the HVAC system. And a lot of people don't know that Danfoss, which is located here in our Innovation Park, is a $2 billion industry and hires 200 employees just in Leon County. And superintendent was there as well, and they were donating their first oil-free magnetic bearing compressor, which I had never known anything about. But they're going to now at Lively begin the training for these young people that are taking classes at Lively to learn this new technology, which is apparently going to take over. It's fuelless, and it's all based on magnets, and it's why Turbocore moved to Tallahassee. And so I just thought it was a great example of how Leon County Schools combining with the chamber and our businesses can really move the needle forward, especially for our students who want careers and want good jobs. And we all know now that just because you have a college degree doesn't mean you're going to have a good job. But we do know that if you get a certificate from Lively or a place that will guarantee you a job and help you get an apprenticeship, it is going to be a good deal. And so I'm really excited about what they're doing at Lively, and I look forward to more of these kind of community partnerships. And I just wanted to commend Shelley Bell for that, and also Danfoss for making that partnership with Leon County Schools. And that's the other announcement I wanted to make is tomorrow morning at Godby High School, the Soweto Gospel Choir is going to be there. We'll be there. Because of Tallahassee FSU opening nights, which is a great thing that they bring culture and arts to our schools, and I believe we're invited. So it's at 8:45 if anybody wants to be at Godby in the morning. And the Barefoot Movement, which is another opening nights program, is going to be at Cobb on Thursday. I don't have the time on that yet, but We are so lucky.
All right, can I do one real quick? I gotta give a shout. Mandy Harvey, the young lady who's deaf, who was on America's Got Talent, performed for W.T. Moore and for Swift Creek.
I saw that.
Oh my gosh, what a story! But we can't thank opening nights enough for being a part of this. They're part of our Principal of the Month program. So kudos to them for partnering with us
I
as well.
plan to be at Godby in the morning with you, Madam Chair, and I do need to thank my principals of District 5 now. You know I have to do that, so thank you all for having shown up and showed out at the forum. Thank you, guys.
Okay, well, everybody have a happy holidays,
Yes.
and I believe this meeting is
Merry
dismissed.
Christmas.